Madam, with all due respect, your ass is on my working bench. Hello everyone! Today we're going to be constructing a thing. I'm pretty excited about this one because it finally came with instructions in English. The other ones, usually I have to either watch a video tutorial on it or basically translate word for word in Google Translate from a PDF to get information about the product. I hope it works. Usually things that I get from AliExpress are a bit of a hit and miss, but this one seems promising. It's supposed to look something like this. So, like a world spinning thingy, majiggy stuff. Looks cool. So that's why I bought it, and I hope it works. It has LEDs. I like LEDs, I like light. And it's supposed to also sing music, but that's gonna be a little bit like, skeptical on that one. So without further ado, let's get into the components and let's see what we have here. This is what we're working with. It's not very complicated. For example, all the fun looks like it's in there, and here is all the LEDs that we're gonna solder. And yeah, these are the PCBs. I think they look pretty freaking awesome. And this is gonna be the motor that's gonna spin the thing around and like make it alive. But all of the fun looks like it's in there, like all of the components that probably should be soldered on this one. And here's gonna be LEDs. Here's gonna be LEDs. Different colors, I'm assuming, because this one I think should be blue and this one should be white. So let's get going. Let me be very proud about this PCB holder because I absolutely love it. It's so easy to use, it's quality. I'm very impressed because I actually got it from AliExpress. This thing I got too. It's a heat gun and I'm actually very pleased with it as well. Also, it's my first time using solder paste. This is not lead free, I'm usually soldering with lead free. It was a little bit difficult to squeeze it out of that syringe, so I put a little bit too much, and as you can see, it kind of goes all over the place. So after washing the PCB a little bit and getting rid of that tin, I'm gonna apply solder paste, solder cream, solder goo, and placing the component as pretty as possible. Then let's heat up the component. I don't think I went over 260 degrees Celsius here. And as usual, I wash every solder that I do. Here's a glimpse. I think it looks really good. And I'm very pleased with the quality of the solder too. I like it. I'm gonna start by prepping one of the resistors, and the tool that I just got, of course, from AliExpress is this feet helping bendy thingy. It's nothing special, it's just some 3D printed thing that helps me bend the legs really nice. It's a handy thing to have, it's not a must. Now I'm putting in the first resistor and I'm preparing the feet to be soldered. So I just bend the feet a little bit so it stays in place, and taking a little bit of tin on the soldering iron, warming up the area, then placing the tin on the foot and the pad. Repeat the process. Now I'm cutting the feet with my precision pliers. I think they're called precision pliers. Washy every time. No matter the type of solder I use, I always wash after soldering. Now I'm gonna start soldering these capacitors. And they're pretty fragile, so I'm gonna be very careful while inserting the feet in. Same process, bend the feet and apply solder to the joints. And here's how it looks. Of course, after washing. Moving on to the third capacitor that I'm gonna solder. This one is not as difficult, but I'm still gonna go with the bending of the feet just to keep the whole process identical on the whole board. I like having things identical and in order and OCD friendly, I would say. Now soldering the power plug. This kit came with a power cord as well. You can order it without one, but I just prefer to have a lot of them laying around because I tend to lose them. And here's how the soldering looks like. I like it. Now, there's a little bit of a weird thing that the instructions told me to do, is to mount these two screws and solder them with a washer underneath. I've never done this before and I don't understand the principle of it, but maybe somebody smarter than me will explain it to me in the comments. I just followed the instructions at this point and did exactly what they told me. And this is the final result with the screws. I did not realize, but my camera cut off, and basically what I've done is just solder 2 switches and this dimmer that controls the speed of the spinning. This is the soldering underneath the microscope for those who are curious. Now I'm gonna mount the motor that spins the whole thing, and the way I'm gonna do it is putting 2 screws and 2 nuts. Okay, moving away from the 12-year-old humor. What's left now is for me to solder the wires. I'm just simply gonna cut them to size and using my wire strippers. Here I needed to be a little bit careful because those are not made for this size of cable. So I had to be very careful not to let it bounce back so it ruins the wire. Here I'm pre-tinning the wires and I've soldered them. I'm not completely 100% satisfied with it because it did melt the isolation a little bit, so yeah. Just installed these pillars with the screw underneath, and now we're moving on to the speaker, and I'm so curious if this thing actually works. The instructions said to put it on the PCB right there, so it has enough space for the cables to reach these 2 points. Now, after soldering, this is how they look from above and below. I'm satisfied with them. Now, we're moving on to these, what are they called? Springs! Jesus Christ, wow! Okay, those springs are gonna make contact with another board. Moving on to the next PCB because we're done with the first one. Now I'm gonna install this IC socket. There's gonna be a chip that's gonna be inserted in it, and I'm assuming that is the chip that contains all the programming for the boards and the spinning and the music and everything else. Here I'm just going along with the soldering process with that component, and here's how it looks under the microscope. I think it turned out good. Now we're moving on to this dimmer. This little guy is going to help me adjust the lights or intensity of the lights, the LEDs on the board. And now it's time for the fun part, like the inline soldering of the LEDs. This part is one of my favorites to do. I have a method of doing this that I forgot actually to film right now, but I'm going to show you a little bit later. So it should look something like this. Upside down, trying to stabilize it on itself. And the reason why I'm doing this is because when I solder it, it's much easier to have all the components in one go than just solder it one by one. So I just do it this way. Here's how the first round of soldering looks like underneath the microscope for the LEDs. I'm going to basically do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm just gonna film it under the microscope so you can see the process of each individual LED being soldered and how it actually looks more up close. And the final result is looking something like this. And now moving on to the last resistor, I am going to use the same tool that I've used earlier. I measure the distance between the holes. I put in the component in the socket and I bend the feet, and I just like how it looks. It looks so much more clean than other ways I've seen this done in, so I choose to work clean. I'm a fan of that. Here's how it looks from above. And now we're moving on to this PCB. It's basically the same process over again, just mount on the LEDs. And here is where I'm going to show you how I did that maneuver earlier. It's basically flip it upside down and use gravity to push it onto the table with everything mounted, and now adjust it a little bit here and there so everything is flattened on the board, and you have something looking like this. I just found that it's so much easier for me to do it this way than just to solder each individual thing, and the thing in the middle is just a way to help stabilize the board while I'm soldering it. Nothing special. I'm not really satisfied with the quality of the Q-tips that I'm getting from the store, so if you guys know any good Q-tips, by all means, please let me know. After cleaning the board, I'm going to move on to the next PCB. It's just installing these pillars with some simple screws on top. It's nothing complicated. It's just screw, screw, screw. And this is how it looks like so far. Now, the reason that I mounted these is because this PCB is going to hold another PCB on top. And right now I'm just mounting the second one on the first one that I did. It's just a screw in the middle, and this is going to fasten it to the rotating mechanism that the dimmer controls. And this is it for this stage of the assembly, and that means I can move on to the next PCB. Now from here on out, it's gonna be a little bit more complicated than the first phase of the assembly, because here's where I'm going to connect all 3 PCBs by soldering them together, and it just requires a little bit more of a steady hand. And what I'm doing is connecting the GND and VCC points on the 2 PCBs, and after that it looks something like this. I know it looks like a lot, but I put a little bit more just for stability purposes. It's such a small soldering point, and I'm a little bit afraid that it's gonna break. Now for this part, I decided to put the PCB on the PCB holder because this is going to require a lot of stability. As you can see, I'm mounting the last PCB by soldering it into 2 points, one in the front and one in the back. The soldering points are very small, so I don't know if you can see much here, but I hope you can see it right here. And in my professional opinion, it looks good. So we are done with this thingy-majiggy. Now it is time to assemble the whole thing, and the last step is very easy. I'm just screwing 4 screws in place. That helps mount the whole thing above to the whole thing below. This is the final result. Now let's test it and see if it works. And we have a success story. Yippee! It spins, the dimmer works, everything works, the music even worked, by the way. Right now I'm testing to see if the dimming of the lights works. That works perfect, and there you go. What do you think of this little, not that little, but the other one? Well, give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you liked the video. Tell me in the comments what do you think of this project, and thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this type of content. Okay, bye!